How do you stop living from paycheck to paycheck? It's inevitable that you have to clock in and out of work for some part of every week whether you like it or not. The result is a major financial advance for some, but unfortunately, for others, their real goals never seem to get closer to reality no matter how hard they try. It's just because they live paycheck to paycheck. They are stuck in a cycle of poverty. Increasingly, people are living in financial destitution with the right financial resources. You can escape this lifestyle. Consequently, I am sharing with you in this video how to stop using it. Check out the channel if you're new and living paycheck to paycheck in 2022. Then click the subscribe button below for more life-changing content. First, one important point to note is that if you're presently living in a tight financial life, just know that you're not alone in a survey conducted in March 2022. Unfortunately, this percentage only rises as we look at my own age demographic, millennials. Yeah, I'm getting old. A survey conducted by Payments and Lending Club found that 70% millennials were living paycheck to paycheck. Many of them falling into this terrible financial trap while earning six-figure incomes. Now, if you're presently living paycheck to paycheck, then I don't need to tell you how one falls into this world of finance. However, for those unfamiliar, the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle is a symptom of multiple factors to avoid living in this undesirable lifestyle. Therefore, you should identify causes and solutions so you don't make the same mistakes again. Imagine being the next person who has trouble meeting a 500 expense. Based on the statistics about how many people live today, I find it fascinating for most people these days. Living paycheck to paycheck is really no surprise. Upon learning, there are more than 100 million Americans. People are shocked. A glance at their bills triggers a shock, but when you dig deeper, it's another story. Let's take a look at the financial system in which we live and see how it is designed. Therefore, it makes sense that most people live paycheck to paycheck, and there are four main reasons why so many people do not pay their bills on time. Being able to stay out of the red is the first issue many people struggle with. As you know, saving is key to saving from debt if you're living paycheck to paycheck. Unfortunately, getting ahead financially requires certain practices. You have to pay up your debt every month, which is like pouring money down the drain. There is a huge hole at the bottom of a cup where water is being poured. People are making motions, but little progress is being made. What's worse is that most people aren't part of it. In order to repay their debt and save money, they don't earn enough money. We will dive into that point shortly for some solution ideas. It's simple, right? Just don't get into debt. But unfortunately, that's easier said than done. Nowadays, getting a fancy wallpaper is easier than ever before. Having degrees are basically mandatory if you want to pursue any kind of career. As a result, the chances of getting hired anywhere other than McDonald's are slim. Thousands of American young adults experience sexual violence and pay thousands of dollars in tuition every year, which means they are taking a student debt to cover these costs, thus increasing the cost of entry into the United States. In today's competitive workforce, most young adults are starting their careers behind the eight ball due to society's push for higher education. However, let's imagine you turn that piece of paper into a nice office job with free coffee and 3 weeks annual vacation. I'm not so certain if you're able to turn them around while you're on vacation. Graduates, however, a badge and a desk do not equal financial success. The next factor that will put the troubles into the rearview mirror is low wages and stagnant wages keep people in a paycheck-to-paycheck struggle. A study of entry-level salaries over the last 40 years shows that inflation-adjusted entry-level salaries are frightening. Considering that they cover only the 1960s, these numbers are the same as that year. In the present, you probably think, well, that's not so bad, will it? Will it be as bad if the cost of getting that job, i.e. a degree, wasn't so high? That is all to say that your business has grown by an exponential amount during that time frame. Student loans won't be wiped out by your starting salary anytime soon. And increasing salaries between 3 and 5% is slow and stagnant. People struggle to meet their financial obligations due to low wages and with monthly obligations. You might wonder, if the world is going to end because it is extremely difficult to acquire for most people, you're out to get it. Let's say you're financially ahead these days. Now, let's say you have overcome your financial difficulties. Do not burden yourself with your educational journey and find a job that pays well if you want to do these two things you're in the clear right. Consider again, as you know, in the world we live in today, one of the cornerstones is when you become an adult. You buy your own home while renting is perfectly fine. I think we can all agree that a common convention is to buy a house and pay for it. In practice, it may seem more convenient to have your own mortgage than someone else. One common problem is that it's easier said than done. As a rule of thumb, you should not spend more than 3 times your income. If you make $80,000 on your home, for example, multiply it by 4, your home should be priced no higher than $250 a year. If I had $40,000, I couldn't even buy a shack. I cannot find a home for that amount of money in my city, so most current home buyers don't have that kind of money, having to buy homes that are greater multiples of their income. However, let me pull back the curtain so that you can see the issue with the situation. A little more on this threat and the obvious issue with buying an expensive house where homeowners are meeting their mortgage payments every month. But that's just the beginning. A more expensive home comes with costly repairs. The list goes on, in some cases with higher property taxes and insurance costs. Nowadays, people spend more than 50% of their income on food. Housing costs alone account for a large portion of the monthly income for many people. In my experience, up to this point, I've encountered people living paycheck to paycheck. It basically absolved everyone living paycheck to paycheck of their financial obligations. I'm not going to contribute to their financial destitution. You get off completely scot-free on the last factor. Keeping most people from paying their own money habits keeps them from financial despair. It's tough if you're constantly buying new clothes you don't need or want. You aren't getting ahead. No matter how hard you try, you will never play on the PGA Tour. People who live paycheck to paycheck are often their own worst enemies. Having all these financial factors already working against you is your worst enemy. Now that you know what caused the problem, adding another foe to their list is the last thing they need. We'll start with the solution given this is a paycheck to paycheck issue. It's only fitting that I use my bidet system in our miserable situation. Once and for all, the bidet will end the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. The 5 pillars of this system help you escape and stay out of the cycle of addiction and financial despair for good. Let's break down each of these factors so you can get back on your feet and kiss your financial worries goodbye first. As I mentioned, your budget is an important component of the bidet system. Most people's financial problems are caused by their spending habits and not their income. You can skydive without a parachute if you don't have a spending plan. As a result, you should establish a budgeting system. As for the budget, I recommend it's the 80-20 budget. With this budget, you allocate 80% and you can save 20% of your monthly income and spend the rest on expenses. Savings are already factored in, and as such, if you can stick to your budget, then you are guaranteed to start to pad your bank account with a bit of extra cash every month. The second pillar in the bidet system is income. Unless you have the worst spending habits in the world, I would argue that if you're making $10 million a month, that you won't be living paycheck to paycheck. As a result, part of your financial problem is due to your lack of income. Increasing your income is the second pillar. This can be done one of 2 ways. Firstly, you can convince your boss to give you a raise. It's worth a shot. But I wouldn't put all my eggs in this basket. Instead, aim to lose money outside of your 9-to-5 job by doing the following: finding a part-time job or starting a side business. The third aspect of my financial freedom was high-skill freelancing. Debt is one of the pillars of the bidet system. And I've already mentioned how most people are in debt. Debt is something everyone has to deal with at some point in their lives. Student debt can expand into credit card debt and auto loans. If you decide to purchase a home, you will need a mortgage. It is generally best to be rid of all these debt loads and focus on the ones that are most important to you. These are the ones with the highest interest rates attached to them. That means you should stay away from credit card and auto loan debt. In the event you are already laden with debt, do your best to pay it off as fast as you can. Here is what you can do. Arrange your debt in order of highest to lowest. Put an end to the interest rates and begin paying down your debt one by one. If you have a budget and make more income, you should be able to use that 20%. The fourth pillar of the budget is to squash as much debt as possible. The bidet system is your emergency fund. One of the easiest ways to stay trapped in the paycheck to pay clip style is to not have money set aside for the unexpected. Whenever a surprise expense arises, it's financial event. If you don't handle the debt issue, you have to pay more and more. Monthly interest leads to perpetual financial destitution as a result. Whenever you are able to pay off your high-interest debt, start saving. Setting aside a year's worth of expenses in your emergency fund is recommended. However, 3 to 6 months is a good baseline to start with. Another reason for the bidet system is the time component. People fall into the paycheck-to-paycheck trap because they are poor. Although I hate to say it, most people I see struggling are managers of their time. Those who are always watching Netflix or playing online games are not financially savvy. And if you're struggling with your finances right now, online debates are pointless. To help yourself out, audit how you do things. Over the next week, write down how you spend your time. Trust me, if it is your first time, every hour of your time will be worth it. Once you start to identify your results, the results will be shocking. Lowest value activities like watching Netflix for 8 hours, engaging in financially beneficial activities such as taking on extra hours at work, taking a course or reading a book to level up your skills. Your time, your money will follow. Therefore, as we just discussed, living paycheck to paycheck is a shitty situation to be in. Fortunately, with the bidet system, you can clean up your financial situation and start to move your wealth needle in the right direction. Thanks for watching. If you want to go from the life you have to the life you deserve, then hit the subscribe button now.